It's a new crew. They're looking at you. They're like, don't fail us. Don't make me have to reset. Don't make me change this lighting because you knocked something down. It's like...
And welcome to the Sit Down, where we have conversations with creators from across this beautiful motherland of ours. My name is Mboya, a filmmaker and an all-round story lover. And today we're sitting down with Pauline Kyalo, who's an amazing on-stage and on-screen actress. She's been able to do work for plays such as Lwanda Rockman, Too Early for Birds, and they just concluded first season of Crime and Justice. And she's here with us today, so sit down and settle in.
Was there anything unusual about Robert?
Actually, Robert spent too much time in school.
We understand there's a study group that meets. Was Robert a part of it?
I'm not involved with the group.
The group meets with Professor Boyego once a week.
We speak for the future of the country.
We thought he had nothing to do with the group.
We are the resistance.
Boyego is the group.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Sit Down. And I'm so excited about this section because I think having this conversation with you, your breadth of acting is so diverse and wide. It'll be very interesting to talk about the different aspects. So everyone, when you go into acting school, or if you're, especially for people in film, whenever you study anything in film, they're always like, acting in film is not like acting in theater. Theater is very expressive, and you have to make the person at the farthest part of the theater be able to see your performance. But in film, it's very subtle and
Subtle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I hear that all the time.
Having worked in both mediums, what's your experience like working in theater and being able to transition into film or TV?
So I agree with them. I agree with that thought that, when you're in theater, you have to be louder, you have to have more expressions and all that. And I also agree that in film, things are a bit more subtle because there's so much more working for you, like camera angles, there's what, just things working to enhance your storytelling, that it's not your own effort. So the only thing I wouldn't agree with is to say that they're different. It's just understanding your environment and understanding what it requires from you. If you have 1,000 people in a theater, you have to understand that your voice needs to get to the person who paid and is sitting at the last seat, at the farthest corner. And also when you're doing film, you need to understand, the camera is so close to you. Anything extreme might miscommunicate or might just send the wrong message. So it's just understanding your environment. So that's all I do either I'm on stage or I'm on screen, just getting into that moment, realizing what does this require of me? How much can I give of myself to tell the story? Not so much difference.
And how about how you analyze your character? Is there a difference in how to analyze or think through characters between theater and film?
I think it would be on scale. For example, if I'm supposed to be, let's say I'm supposed to cry, and I'm on stage, I'm going to think, great, I'm crying on stage, my tears are coming out, but is there something else I could do with the person that I'm on stage with to communicate that I'm very uncomfortable? Maybe it could be holding my hands together, just being really sad, or looking down, or something that just enhances that emotion and makes it bigger. But if I'm on screen and I'm meant to cry and the camera is really zoomed in on me and I shed a tear, I know that has already communicated what's happening, and they're going to do a reverse, and they're going to take the other person's reaction. So there's just so much working to tell the story for you that maybe for me, I'll be like, here, I just need to not do so much. While on stage, do a lot more to just communicate that you're unhappy, that you're angry, that kind of stuff. But in terms of just, it's anger. You cannot make it anything else, whether you're on stage or on screen. It's just knowing what is in front of you, who's watching, how is it going to get to them.
I'm wondering, just for my sake, and I think for anyone else who hasn't interacted with theater as much, are the directors different? Is the communication different between you and your directors? Is it the same?
Not at all. It's honestly almost always the same. Funniest thing, I've worked with a director on stage and worked with the same director on screen, and their technique was the same. I don't know if I'm sure you know Gilbert Lukalia, a very great director in Kenya, and has done work outside. But the time that I worked with him on stage and his directions were what his some of his prompts would be, what are you feeling at this point? What do you think your character is feeling at this point? And also when we move to screen, he's like, what are you feeling at this point? I think it only becomes technical when they get to points my DOP, can you give me this angle? Can you zoom in? Can you zoom out? Can you give me an MCU? That kind of thing that they have to. And I think that would be a director's journey of understanding the film world and understanding the stage world. But when it comes to directing an actor, it's almost always the same thing.
Yeah. And how about the idea that, when you're shooting a film, 2 weeks, shot, finished. When you're doing a play, every day, same play, for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, 2 months.
Yeah.
Genuinely, don't you get exhausted doing the same?
Funny enough, I get
excitement?
excited.
How is this?
I'm a theater head. I love theater more than film. Yeah, not. I don't hate on film, but I get so much of a high when I'm on stage because it's getting lines. It's remembering. Everything is on demand. It's there. You can. There's no take two. It's some kind of adrenaline. I really don't know how to explain it. But on theater, and also because maybe that's where I did most of my early work. I got to understand the stage, understand the entrances and exits, look at the audience, what's happening, just kind of understand that in the middle of it by not even looking at them, respond, connect with your scene partners when something is amiss, which happens all the time, or they forget their lines, kind of jump into that, or when you forget your lines, go with the flow. It's a rush that just happens on stage, and it's really irreplaceable. But on set, there's also a magic that happens where it's very permanent. It's what you do now could live forever.
Yeah.
So you also want to get it right. You don't want to mess up. You don't want to give them a bad take, and that's gonna get on the final cut, and then you do a bad film or a bad show. So I think it's different dynamics, but I definitely enjoy the theater high much, much more.
Yeah, I've never looked at it that way. There's definitely some sense of permanency and some sense of immediacy for theater and permanency in film. Because it's stuck. Yeah, it's there. But
it's got on camera.
Yeah, but do you improve? What happens as you go along a series, the next week and the third week? Is there a growth? Do you change lines? What happens to you as a character and as an actor the more time you spend on a theatrical run?
Just definitely the number one thing, you become more comfortable, because the more comfortable you are, the more in it you are, the more you own the story, the easier it will be to tell it. Because first day I come and read the script and says, someone went to school, they died. Okay, that's awesome. That's bad. And then I read it tomorrow and someone went to school, someone died. Okay. And by the fifth day, I'll be like, this person went to school and then they died. I mean, what happened? What's going on with this person? And then you start borrowing from your own experiences, or you start learning about the character in depth if you don't want to connect it with your life. It just becomes more comfortable. The words roll out of your mouth easier. You get to fill in the cues quicker, because the first time you read a script, it's very raw, it's very weird and bland, because you'll be like, I want to do this, and the person will be like, do not do that. But by the fifth day, you'll be like, I want to do this. No, don't do that. It's like, it's kind of becomes a rhythm, and you know what comes after what, and then it becomes more comfortable, settles in, and you just now are very able to easily tell the story, which is what we're doing as actors.
Yeah. And how do you overcome, even I'm an upcoming theater actor or actress, how do I overcome stage fright? How do you deal with the fact that there are people, thousands or hundreds of people
watching you?
At you?
Yeah, I don't think you ever do. or at least I haven't. But practice makes perfect. So definitely a stage play I do today would not be like what I did 5 years ago. The thing that becomes easier is you trust yourself more. You know you might fail, but you also trust yourself more. You're like, oh, I didn't fail last time. I didn't fail last week. I might not fail this time. It never just goes away at you. Like, I don't have any stage fright. Especially that time just before the curtains open, that's when I feel like I could die. The world should just open and just swallow me because I'm not doing this. I'm not doing. Then they open. I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's do this.
Are there techniques to deal with this? Are there things that you, a mantra or anything that you do to sort of get you?
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody. For me, it's definitely breath work. I learned this from a director of mine. She's called Coach Carol. She is so huge on breath work before a show, just calming your senses, relaxing, ensuring that there's nothing bothering your mind, or you're not trying to put out any fires. Even if there is a fire, just let things burn. Be in the moment. Breathe in and out. That just works for me. I do box breathing where I take in 4 breaths, hold for 4 times, breathe out 4 times. Just hold for 4 other breaths, just continuously for like 2-3 minutes just before the show. That kind of calms you down so that it can launch you into the show. But definitely I'd say no stress, just get your lines, because some of these things might make you feel like you're not ready, especially when you do not have all the lines. Of course, you'll feel incompetent to yourself, and that is gonna show. So as comfortable as you are, that's how the show is gonna look. So I'd say for me, it's breath work. Just do a lot of breathing. If you're into yoga, if you're into meditating, just relax yourself consciously before the show.
Yeah, and is it a different kind of fear when it comes to film? You don't have the many eyes.
Yeah, you do.
But is it
kind
different? Well, yes, but we are all, the rest of the crew is sort of avoiding looking at you. They're all like,
unless they are really looking at you.
But is it different?
I'd say it's a bit different, but still, it's just a bit different, because once you get into the show and you realize you're confident and you just carry on, you can go the entire 2 hours without feeling that kind of sort of butterflies in your stomach. But for me, I think I'm still learning, because I haven't done that much work in shows. Like I've not done more than 10 shows on TV. So, but the ones that I've done, the number of times I've been on set, it's always a new experience, because it's a new crew. They're looking at you. They're like, don't fail us. Don't make me have to reset. Don't make me change this lighting because you knocked something down. It's like, I guess this is when your personality comes in. And if you're comfortable, if you're with a comfortable director, with your comfortable crew, you have your lines, you're comfortable with your scene partners, it becomes easier. It's a closed room, maybe say maximum 20 people, well, if it's a really big set, or like 5 people if it's a kind of small set. You get it's easier. But then I think the knowledge of, oh God, everybody's gonna see this, I cannot take this back, now makes you feel like there's more people watching you, especially when it's something that's going on like national TV. You're like, oh God, did I do it right? Am I doing it right? Am I messing up? It's a different kind of fear, but I'd say different techniques to just make you comfortable in your situation can help you a lot not mess up and do a great job as an actor.
Yeah. And I want to jump onto a moment of, this is like the recorded version of the Lwanda. I just because we had talked a bit about it.
Okay.
Like our motto says, when we slit a throat, we slit it for you. Yes! Jump! There is no denying the exceptional qualities of the black suckers of Hospiro and the unmatched finesse of the people's champion. According to the numbers coming in from today's battle, this is one of your finest victories ever. Isn't that so, ladies? Tell us, what is your secret? Squad! Yes, I am! Please! Attention! Award! Please! Attention! What? Please!
We talked about, in the podcast section, we talked about you not having lines and having to interpret it it didn't take me. I hadn't watched. I never attended the show, but the moment I played that, my eyes automatically went to you, like bam.
Oh.
I was like, bam. Was that how did you end up interpreting that character in that way without any dialogue? How did you end up interpreting the character? What was that journey like in you deciding what the essence or what?
Yeah, I think I just went into, there's nothing new under the sun. So I just went into all these films that I've seen, books that I've read about people who would always follow the leader in these myth stories and legends. And they also never had anything to say. Their job was to protect the guy and to exude some kind of fear and you need to be afraid of me, because if you mess with my guy, I'll just like end your life. So it was, how do I remind people I'm here, even though I'm protecting somebody, and you dare not mess with us. So it just got into the body movements and just kind of, how can you communicate without using words? And I guess that's what led me to that character and the nuances and everything around it.
And how do you, when you decide as an actor, okay, so this is my interpretation of the character, how do you communicate that to, how do you sell that to the director for them to, see it the way you're seeing it? Is there a process in that when you're trying to communicate to a director, this is what I am seeing as an actor, this is what I think fits best for my character? How do you communicate that?
I'd say I've been very lucky to work with directors who are open-minded and are ready to take your vision and incorporate it to theirs and just kind of make something beautiful. So when I was doing Lwanda Rockman with John Jumbi, he's a very down-to-earth director who is ready to listen to anything you say. And as I told you before, he had so many people to take care of, and that just meant that if you want a piece of his time, you have to go to him and just try to sell what you're saying, although he didn't refute a lot of things. So there's a thing in theater that says what you rehearse is what you will do on show day. So I would be like, I'm going to rehearse it this way. If you like it, let's retain it. If you don't, let's scrap it, and you can give me something else to work with. And then the first day that I tried to do it, was like, that works, let's go with it. And that's just how we rehearsed. I just come to rehearsals to move around like that. It was tiresome, but I enjoyed how it turned out in the end. And yeah, he was very accommodating. He just said, it's good, it's working, it's amazing. I hope people like it the way we do. And that's just how we did it. We didn't even speak twice about it. It was, what you're doing in rehearsal is what you're going to do on show day, so continue doing it. Yeah.
Right.
Kweli Kenya nasomanga boto tu ya western.
Ati nini?
Appetite yenyewe inakuanga inborn.
So unajaribu kufanya nini kucheza Kakamega? Mimi niko na Ken, uko na Eve.
Hizo ndo gani sasa?
Ukijuanga sipikiangi wanaume wazima. Brief yangu ilikuwa ni take care of watoi peke yake. Sawa?
Empress, what's the premise of the show before we jump into it?
MaEmpress is about 5 women who are the main characters of the show, and it just follows their lives as they try to navigate, living in Nairobi, trying to make it, career, life, all that, but set in a very Nairobi kind of way, where you see people speak Sheng, they use Swahili, a bit of English here and there. So yeah, it's just about 5 women who are friends and are leading very different lives and trying to spotlight their different challenges.
I mean, transitioning onto TV and comedy in itself, where it's about executing the lines at the right time. How do you navigate the idea of the dialogue has to be? I think I always find comedy and TV and theater, or in this case sitcom-ish, kind of, you sort of have to almost do the same thing in terms of the execution of the line has to be so practiced and rehearsed. What's that feeling like when you're trying to do TV and comedy specifically? What's that experience for you as an actress?
I really like it. I love comedy. Comedy is one of my, top things, kind of, what do I call it? Acting styles. I enjoy sitcoms, watching them, doing them. I just love, because it's a happy kind of show. So when I got into MaEmpress, I didn't do a lot of episodes because it was during the end of the last season. I enjoyed those lines because they were very well written in a funny way, and the people on set were so funny themselves that they made the environment, kind of support the story, such that even when we're not shooting, guys are still telling jokes. They're trying to throw jabs at each other and just kind of play around with words. So getting into set and trying to say the lines was not that hard. But also, as I agree with you, you need to rehearse, you need to kind of get the lines right so that someone does not miss a cue and then the joke just dips.
Yeah.
It's not so easy at all. I wouldn't say it's an easy one, but I love that it was also close to theater, that it's something I've done before, so it wasn't such a huge challenge for me. And the guys were really good. They were really helpful. They were like, let's rehearse it before. We did like a couple of takes before the actual main take. So that really helps, like rehearsing a lot before.
Amazing. And I think for me, that's the right place to end this and to say thank you so much for taking your time.
Thank you, Mark.
For talking to us, teaching us, helping us learn more about the craft of acting. We appreciate you. If someone wanted to send you a DM,
slide into DM.
Find out more about your work. Any questions that they have, how do they find you?
Pauline Kyalo, that's my name. Kyalo is Kyalo on Instagram, on Twitter, which I'm not there a lot. I'm honestly on Instagram. I love Instagram so much. So if you can get on that platform, then or just talk to Mark and then he'll talk to me.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much for taking your time. We appreciate
Thank you so much.
Have an amazing day.
Enjoy yours too. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.